Welcome to Com Laude Group's podcast. We will be doing a retrospective dive into last year, 2024, and then look at the future of blockchain domains in 2025. The presenters today are myself, I'm a product strategist, and Alexander Wood, who is a validations and Web3 specialist. Without further ado, let us begin with the retrospective, which Alexander will be giving.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction, Dietmar. Yeah, so I thought firstly I could very briefly explain and kind of remind listeners what blockchain domains actually are before getting into kind of the history and the state of the market today. So, firstly, blockchain domains are domains which are stored on a blockchain rather than DNS servers. They are associated with an individual's crypto wallet, and they were invented to facilitate transactions between crypto wallets. So, without getting into too much detail, crypto wallets have public keys, which are very long strings of random letters, numbers, and symbols. So, in the same way that domain names were invented in order to prevent users from having to remember long IP addresses of websites, blockchain domains can be used to identify a user's crypto wallet. And given the fact that crypto wallets can hold and trade large volumes of valuable cryptocurrency, blockchain domains have an obvious utility for crypto speculators. So, for the history of blockchain domains, I'll start with ENS, which is the Ethereum Blockchain Domain Registry. It released .eth, which is the only extension that ENS offers, in 2017, and has since sold 2 million names to 885,000 owners. A year later, in 2018, Unstoppable Domains entered the industry and has sold 4 million blockchain domains. Unstoppable offers, at the time of recording, 52 extensions of its own. It also sells a couple of other blockchain domains in conjunction with other blockchain domain providers, as well as a small number of Web2 or DNS domain extensions. Handshake, or HNS, are another popular platform. They, however, only register top level blockchain domains, similar to a .brand in the DNS world. Users can then register as many subdomains under this top level as they like, or offer to sell subdomains to third parties. So it's a different model to ENS and Unstoppable. And they have sold just under 13 million domains, although I believe this statistic includes subdomains rather than unique top level domains being sold. There are a large number of other providers, but I was focusing on them because they're the three most popular. So, to the state of the market of blockchain domains at the moment, I think you have to look at the kind of utility of blockchain domains to explain this. So, earlier on, I referenced the fact that for crypto traders, blockchain domains have an obvious utility. This is also true for those who use metaverses, as blockchain domains function as a player's username, for example. However, for users and brands who are not versed or curious about Web3, the utility of blockchain domains is more limited. This is for the simple reason that blockchain domains don't resolve on normal browsers the way DNS domains do. You have to use special browsers and plugins to view them. So, this barrier to entry means that they're primarily used by Web3 enthusiasts. And this means that the utility to brands is more limited. So that I would say that the vast majority of brands who have chosen to register blockchain domains have done so for defensive purposes. One point in their favor, however, is that blockchain domains can be relatively low cost compared to popular DNS extensions like .com. So for many brands, the amount of capital needed to register blockchain domains is relatively low. If the blockchain domain industry ever manages to find a political and technical solution to resolving on DNS browsers, the utility of blockchain domains will correspond with DNS domains. I'm not going to talk about this in any detail, but it's impossible to predict if or when this will happen. But suffice to say, I'm sure it is something blockchain domain providers are and will be pushing for. So more to the state of the industry today, I would say that the hype surrounding Web3 in general probably started when Facebook rebranded as Meta and introduced the idea of metaverses to kind of most of the general public, and for brands as well. So this triggered a lot of interest from brands and blockchain domains as it seemed to be part of the evolving internet landscape, and many brands did not want to be left behind or to have third parties registering their trademarks. Third parties registering popular brand names in the hope of selling them for a profit is unfortunately a big part of the blockchain domain landscape, particularly on .eth where there are no reserved lists for trademark terms or brands. And so I would say from our perspective at Com Laude, this was the point at which we had most interest from brands in registering blockchain domains in kind of 2021. As time has gone on, I would say interest and demand for blockchain domains has waned compared to this early period. This is perfectly understandable, I think, given the amount of media hype that surrounded Web3 in this period. It also coincided with um, cryptocurrencies becoming more and more valuable. This was also the period where the NFT kind of craze happened, and they were extremely valuable for a kind of relatively short period of time before crashing. So I think the interest in all three of these things kind of fed off each other, and that level of demand was probably always likely to be temporary. I think this can also be inferred from the sort of proliferation of blockchain domain providers in this period. So, although I mentioned those three at the beginning, I remember in this time it seemed like there were new providers popping up every week to kind of get on the bandwagon, like a gold rush. Um, and I would say that, without singling anyone out, there were lots of providers that I don't think were necessarily providing a lot of value to their consumers. It was a kind of an opportunistic period in the blockchain domain landscape. Um, Now I think the number of providers has kind of settled down to the kind of the big three players that we see today. Um, so I don't think that any of those three players are going to be kind of superseded anytime soon, since the industry has matured. Regarding ENS, I mean, the funny thing about them is that even though they invented blockchain domains, the blockchain domains are not themselves kind of the critical focus of the Ethereum kind of company in general. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, but it's also um, a kind of blockchain that is used as a platform for lots of decentralized apps, and that's more where their focus lies. So, even though they're pioneers of the industry, I don't think it's kind of necessarily their main focus in terms of trying to, get as many people registering .eth as possible. Um, Unstoppable, on the other hand, and HNS are kind of pure blockchain domain providers. That's the kind of their raison d'etre. So I'd say, regarding Unstoppable, they've gone up from having, I believe it was only 8 extensions when we started kind of selling them to clients. And now obviously they've gone to over 50. So the way I would look at Unstoppable is, they started with a low number of extensions, which were kind of Web3 related, so like .crypto, .bitcoin, things like that. And as time has gone on, I feel like they've done a lot of partnerships with kind of brands. So they'll release an extension that might be related to another brand. Often these are kind of Web3 projects. And then obviously now we're at the point where there's over 50. So I think, um, it's going to be hard for a competitor to kind of to come in and take over Unstoppable's position in the marketplace. Um, Handshake, which I referenced before as well. I mean, because it's a different business model, even though it's blockchain domains, I think it's harder to compare them to either ETH or Unstoppable. Um, because it has a kind of internal marketplace where you bid for names using their currency. Um, so I think it is for more, enthusiasts who are able to register top level domains and also who have the knowledge of how to register subdomains underneath that. So I kind of get the feeling it's more of a niche specialist provider than Unstoppable or .eth. Um, so yeah, at the moment, I think we've reached a point where the industry's matured. We have these three big kind of players. They each have their niches, and yeah, I think I'm going to stop talking about the current state of the industry and hand over to Dietmar, who'll be discussing, the potential future for blockchain domains and the developments coming down the road.
Thank you very much, Alexander. That was quite a bit of information. Um, so, from my perspective, we're looking at what's coming up ahead in 2025, slipping into slightly into 2026. And the first topic I'm going to talk about is ICANN's approval of the next round. So, we 12 and a half, nearly 13 years ago, we had the first round of new gTLD terms. Um, and it's taken quite a while. And now that this has been approved to go ahead, you're looking at the application period potentially starting in the beginning of 2026, at the early part of 2026. So that's going to be interesting because there's no real clear understanding of how ICANN is going to handle or work with those companies that apply for Web2 names solely for the use in the Web3 environment. So names that are purchased for the traditional DNS and how they are connected to and run within the Web3 or the blockchain domain industry. Um, so will they follow the current process that they have in place, i.e., allow connections from Web 2 names to wallets in Web 3? Or will there be something else? Will there be a different method that is pushed forward? Um, you will need to keep an eye on that and see how that progresses. Um, when I can actually approve the next round, there were quite a few companies that stepped forward. I'll list them in a few seconds, um, but that have actually indicated that they're going to apply for a whole host of DNS2 names, so Web2 names, which will be solely used for Web3 applications. And these companies are 3DNS, D3, Unstoppable, and Freename. So we're looking at overall roughly around about 200 names have been put forward by these organizations that they will be looking to actually purchase. Now, the trick question is, will they actually purchase them? Or is this just a method to drive up interest within the Web three, oh sorry, Web two application period? So that'll be something else that we'll keep an eye on, just to see how they actually go. Now, I was talking about connections. At the moment, Dotbox, which is I'm going to use them as an example. There are others, um, but Dotbox is a Web2 name that that connects to a Web3 name, and the Web3 name is actually on the Ethereum network. Um, and the only way that you can actually get the Web3 name is if you purchase the Web2, it automatically then tries to connect to your Ethereum wallet. And then you're able to actually do some limited actions via your Web2 name. Um, but the important point here is that the Web2 name is covered from a brand's perspective is covered by WIPO and any other form of legal steps that you would wish to take if a name is being infringed upon. And if you are successful in winning the name in the Web 2 environment, so via WIPO or legal action, um, the .box name within the Ethereum environment is automatically moved over to whoever the person is that gains control of that name in the Web 2 environment. Now, normally this wouldn't happen, but because the terms and conditions are very strict for .box and the others, and Ethereum is the one that they are using, they are able to actually take this step. Because normally, what would happen is if you were to win a case against a Web3 name using WIPO or a legal case or something along those lines, um, you, unless the person that is the loser is kind enough to transfer the name into your wallet, the only other way is for that name to be what's called burnt. And when it's burnt, that means it's gone forever. Nobody can get it, the, including yourself. So if you do decide at a later stage that you wish to use it, you would not be able to use it because it is gone. So the box process is one method that Web 2 and Web 3 names are joined together. But we don't know. I mean, there might be a new process or style that is created for the next round. But that'll be interesting to see how that actually progresses, and we'll be keeping an eye on that because it might be that there's a slightly different method that we don't know about at the moment that can and will be used. Now, Alexander spoke about unstoppable domains. Currently, Unstoppable has now become a Web 2 registrar as well as a Web 3 registrar. And by doing that, they have, now Alexander mentioned 50 Web3 extensions. In total, they now have 105 extensions that you're able to purchase via Unstoppable. So that includes .eth. So if a name is available, you can purchase a .eth name. Also, if you are looking to purchase a .com, for example, you can purchase a .com through Unstoppable. So they've tried to mesh the traditional with the new, and it seems to be doing okay. As mentioned from a figures perspective, they've got over 4 million blockchain domains in their control. So that's not too bad. So they've definitely increased their their presence within the Web 2 and Web 3 market. Um, Another thing that they've done is that they are part of the Global Blocks initiative, which means that if you purchase a global block, it will block all the extensions that are available via Unstoppable. So this is the first of the Web3 registrars to actually do that. So uh, that's quite a big story that, and we'll see how that progresses. That's definitely a switch from the traditional model to a more a model of increasing revenue and increasing the number of names that you have under your control. Um, Now, that's looking into the future, or future gazing. I just wanted to touch on something that is potentially is going to impact the blockchain coin market, which then will have an impact on the blockchain domains, and that is Trump and Melania's coins. Now, the Trump coin that came out prior to the election has tanked. And certain people, they are speculating, because it's very difficult to get actual numbers on a coin, is that the top 31 users of or creators of the Trump coin, or purchasers of Trump coin, the top 31 made over 544 million US dollars, whereas the rest didn't make anything. So it lost $1.6 billion in total. Now, the Melania coin seems to be doing slightly better, as in it has a little bit more of a long-term use. So the question really is, how will that impact blockchain domains? Because will the Melania coin, for example, become something that people want to use in the new within blockchain domains, or will they just ignore it? Time will tell. So we'll keep an eye on that. So that's everything from me with regards future gazing. So I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone for listening. If you have any questions or would like to have a chat with us, please send an email to podcast@comlaude.com. That's podcast@comlaude.com, or web3@comlaude.com, and we'll get in touch with you. If you want to hear more, follow our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Thank you very much for listening. Have an awesome day, everyone.